My name is Erin, I'm 36 years old, and I've always believed family meant safety. That belief died the night my own parents sat me down at the dining table and told me, calmly, coldly, that they thought it was best if I stepped away for a while. Dad's tone was firm but detached, the kind of voice he used when firing an employee. "You've been too controlling lately," he said. "We all feel it might be best if you take some space." Mom didn't even look up from her cup of tea. "It's nothing personal, Erin. We just need peace in this house." That was the word they used, as if I was a storm. I remember nodding slowly, every muscle in my body tightening as I fought the tremor in my voice. "Understood," I said softly. "I'll respect that." Dad exhaled in relief, thinking that was the end of it. But I wasn't done. "I'll also be stepping away from the family fund," I added. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut glass. Mom's head snapped up. "Erin, that's not necessary." "No, it is," I interrupted, my tone calm, measured. "If I'm stepping away, I should step away fully." Dad's eyes flickered, not with concern but with panic. That was the moment I realized the truth. This had never been about peace. It was about control. Before I go deeper, if you're new here, take a second to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who's ever been underestimated by their own family. Because what I'm about to tell you is what happens when silence becomes the most powerful form of revenge. That night, I went to my room and sat on the edge of my bed, the house unusually quiet. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the hallway clock, sounds that felt louder than usual, as if the walls themselves were waiting for my reaction. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I simply opened my laptop, logged into the accounts tied to the family fund, and began making a few quiet adjustments. The family fund was something I had created years ago, a shared investment pool meant to support everyone in emergencies, future projects, and our parents' retirement. I managed it, contributed the most, and made sure it grew. It was my way of ensuring we all had stability. But tonight, stability was no longer my responsibility. One by one, I withdrew my portions, every cent that had my name on it. I left their contributions untouched. I wasn't stealing, I was reclaiming. By midnight, my part was gone. By morning, I was gone too. When I walked out the next day, suitcase in hand, Mom was watering the plants on the porch. She looked startled. "Erin, what are you doing?" "Stepping away," I said simply, locking eyes with her. "Like you asked." Dad came out moments later, confusion written all over his face. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I asked quietly. "You said you wanted space. I'm just giving it to you. All of it." And with that, I turned, walked to my car, and drove away from the only home I'd ever known. I found a small apartment downtown that afternoon. Nothing fancy, just mine. The silence was heavy, but it was honest. That first week they didn't call. Not once. But I knew they would. Because without my management, the fund wasn't just going to stagnate. It was going to crumble. And when it did, they'd come looking for the storm they'd tried to silence. Took 9 days. 9 quiet, beautifully uneventful days before my phone began lighting up like a Christmas tree. First it was Mom, then Dad, then my brother Kevin, the one who always believed I took things too seriously. They didn't leave voicemails at first, just a string of missed calls and short, half-angry texts. "Mom, Erin, we need to talk. It's urgent." "Dad, where did the fund go?" "Kevin, you can't just pull out money like that. That's selfish." Selfish. The same word they'd used when they kicked me out emotionally before physically. I ignored them for 3 days. Then I finally answered one call. "Erin." Dad's voice boomed the second I picked up. "What the hell is going on? The account is practically empty." "It's not empty," I said calmly. "Just missing my share." "You had no right." "I had every right," I interrupted. "It's my contribution. You said you didn't want my involvement anymore." I respected that. There was a pause, long enough for me to hear the creak of his office chair. Don't twist things, he said finally, voice low. You're hurting the family. I let out a small laugh. Dad, the family hurt me first. I'm just letting the consequences balance themselves. He hung up. By the following week, the cracks had begun to show. My mother called again, this time softer. Erin, you don't understand. Your father's project depends on that fund. Then he should have thought of that before asking me to step away, I replied. Please, she said quietly. Can't you just fix this? I almost felt bad, almost. But then I remembered the look on her face when she'd nodded in agreement to my exile. No hesitation. No defense. Just compliance. Mom, I said, my tone flat but calm. I did fix it. I fixed it for myself. And I ended the call. The next few days, rumors started trickling back to me through relatives. How Dad was scrambling to secure new investors. How Kevin was blaming me for family embarrassment. But what none of them knew was that I'd been preparing for this long before that dinner table ambush. Months earlier I'd grown suspicious. I noticed unexplained withdrawals, vague business expenses, listed in the fund's reports. So I began quietly moving my assets elsewhere. They thought I was stepping back now, out of emotion. But really, I was finishing what I'd already started. One evening, I received an email from my aunt, Dad's older sister. Someone I'd always trusted. Erin, I don't know what's going on, but your parents are in trouble. The fund was more tangled than you realized. You might want to check the company paperwork again. I sat there staring at the screen, heart thudding. Then I opened the digital vault containing the original partnership documents. And that's when I saw it, the real betrayal. Dad had quietly amended the contract 3 months ago, reducing my stake from 45% to 15%. He'd done it using my digital signature, copied from old documents I'd scanned for him. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I just leaned back in my chair and whispered, okay. This wasn't about family anymore. This was war. But revenge doesn't always need shouting or violence. Sometimes it's silence, the kind that moves in the dark, patient and precise. I called an attorney friend, a sharp-minded woman named Naomi who owed me a favor. I sent her the documents, and within hours she confirmed my suspicion. Forgery. We didn't go to court. Not yet. That would have been too loud. Instead, I started quietly dismantling the small empire my father thought was untouchable. Every supplier I'd connected him with, gone. Every client who trusted the company because of my credibility, notified. Every business license and registration I'd personally handled, revoked. And I did it all legally, cleanly, like cutting invisible strings one by one until the puppet dropped lifeless. By the time my parents realized what I'd done, their family fund wasn't just low, it was empty. I didn't steal from them. I simply removed me from their foundation. And without me, the whole thing collapsed. 3 weeks later, my father showed up at my apartment unannounced. I heard the pounding on the door before I saw his reflection through the peephole. Face flushed, jaw tight, shirt collar open as if he'd rushed straight from another failed meeting. Erin! Open this door right now. I took a long sip of my tea, waited a few seconds, then unlocked the door with deliberate calm. He pushed inside before I could even step back. You've destroyed everything. Do you even understand what you've done? I met his glare with silence. I built that fund from the ground up, he snapped. You think this stunt, teaches us a lesson? You've just ruined your family's name. You forged my signature, I said quietly. That's not a stunt, Dad. That's a crime. His expression faltered for half a second, then hardened again. I was trying to protect the family. No, I said. You were trying to control it. We stood there in the doorway. Two people who shared the same blood, the same eyes, the same stubborn silence, but now stood on opposite sides of something that couldn't be undone. He exhaled sharply. Your mother's been crying every day. I nodded slowly. She cried when you lost control, not when you betrayed me. He didn't answer. That night I received a message from Kevin. It wasn't angry, just cold. Kevin, You made your point. Congratulations. But you've humiliated us all. I hope you're happy. I typed out a reply, paused, then deleted it. There was no use explaining justice to people who called it vengeance when it wasn't in their favor. So instead, I did something they didn't expect. I sent them one last email. Short, simple, final. You taught me loyalty. I learned silence. You taught me obedience. I learned boundaries. Thank you for the lessons. I'm free now. And then I blocked their numbers. But freedom is rarely peaceful at first. The days that followed were eerily quiet. No calls, no messages, no chaos, just space. I'd expected satisfaction to rush in immediately, but instead I felt something deeper, clarity. For years I'd been their safety net, the dependable one, the daughter who solved problems, paid debts, and never complained. But when they pushed me aside, they forgot that I was also the foundation. And without a foundation, even the prettiest house crumbles. 2 months passed. Then one morning a letter arrived. Handwritten, sealed, formal. It was from my mother. I sat at my dining table for 10 minutes before opening it. Erin, I don't know how we got here. Your father is not the man he used to be. We're losing everything. But maybe that's what we needed to see the truth. If you can forgive us, please come home. Not to fix things but to talk. Her words were shaky, almost foreign, as if she'd finally spoken without Dad's shadow. I folded the letter gently, slid it back into the envelope, and whispered to myself, not yet, because some conversations need silence before they can have meaning. A few weeks later I heard through a mutual acquaintance that the house, the grand family house my father was so proud of, was on the market. He couldn't sustain it anymore. The fun, the business, the illusion, all gone. And there, amid the wreckage, something unexpected happened. I didn't feel triumphant. Felt done. That's when I knew I'd truly won. When revenge no longer tasted like bitterness, but like peace. So yes, I stepped away. Just as they asked. But I didn't step away in defeat. I stepped away with everything that was mine. My dignity, my independence, and the quiet satisfaction of watching the truth reveal itself without my interference. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply to walk away and let the weight of their actions collapse on its own. By the time I got up from that table, the tea beside me had gone cold. But my heart, for the first time in years, was warm. It was late September when I finally decided to go back. Not home, just back. Back to the place where everything began. The family house looked smaller than I remembered. The grand white pillars that once symbolized pride now stood faded and chipped, like an old secret too tired to hide itself. There were no luxury cars in the driveway, no laughter spilling from the patio, just silence, and the faint hum of a house that had finally learned humility. I parked across the street and sat for a while, gripping the steering wheel, watching the curtains flutter from inside. I wasn't here for revenge anymore. I was here for closure. When I finally stepped out, I felt the crunch of gravel under my shoes. A sound that had echoed through every argument, every command, every "we know what's best for you." The front door opened before I could knock. It was my mother. For a moment, she just stared. Her expression frozen somewhere between disbelief and relief. "Erin," she whispered. He nodded. "Hi, Mom." Her eyes welled up. "You look good." "So do you," I said softly, even though I could see she didn't. She stepped aside without another word. "Come in." The house smelled different. Not of expensive candles or polished floors, but of dust and lemon cleaner. Everything looked smaller, quieter. The family portraits were gone from the hallway. The empty spaces where they'd hung seemed to hum with the weight of what had been lost. Dad sat at the dining table, hunched over a mug of coffee. His once sharp suit now replaced by a plain shirt. When he looked up, there was no trace of the man who'd said, "We think it's best you step away." "Erin," he said quietly. His voice cracked a little. "Dad." He gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit." I sat down, not out of obedience this time, but out of choice. He cleared his throat. "You were right." I raised an eyebrow slightly. "About what?" "Everything," he said. His hands trembled slightly around the mug. About control, about boundaries, about me. I said nothing. He exhaled long and heavy. I lost everything because I didn't know how to let you be free. I thought I was protecting the family. But I was protecting my pride. The silence that followed was thick. Not with anger, but with truth finally allowed to breathe. My mother reached for my hand. "We've been so lost without you," she said, her voice trembling. "We didn't realize how much you held this family together." For the first time, I didn't feel like the outcast daughter. I felt like the mirror they'd avoided looking into for years. I squeezed her hand gently. "You didn't lose me. You just had to meet me again, without the guilt, without the control." Dad nodded, his eyes glistening. "If there's anything we can do." "There is," I said. "You can stop apologizing. Just be better. For yourselves. For each other." He nodded again, and for once, the old stubbornness was gone. When I left the house that evening, the sun was setting, the same warm golden hue that used to spill into my childhood bedroom. I stood at the edge of the driveway, took one last look at the house and smiled. The past had lost its grip on me. As I walked toward my car, my phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. "Kevin. He's been softer lately. He finally listened to Mom today. I think he's trying." Me, good. It's never too late to start again. That night I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. Revenge had burned out long ago, replaced by something rarer, peace. The kind that comes when you realize silence doesn't mean surrender. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and walking away doesn't mean losing. Sometimes the real victory is watching the storm calm, not because you fought it, but because you finally stopped standing in the rain. If you've ever been the one blamed, dismissed, or cast aside, remember this. You don't owe anyone your pain to prove your worth. Sometimes all it takes is one quiet decision to change everything. And for me, that decision began the night I said, "Understood. I'll step away from the family fun too." And that's how it all ended. Not with a dramatic confrontation, not with raised voices or slammed doors, but with silence. A silence that spoke louder than years of arguments ever could. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying anyone. It's about disengaging. It's choosing peace over pride. It's realizing that walking away isn't losing. It's winning on your own terms. Erin didn't need to prove her worth. She simply stepped back, and the truth revealed itself. Her absence became the loudest truth her family could no longer ignore. Because one thing life always guarantees is this. When you stop chasing their approval, they start seeing your value. So if you've ever been cast aside, underestimated, or called the problem, remember Erin's story. You don't need to fight to be seen. Sometimes your calm becomes their storm. And your silence, that's where real power lives.